Your ears can't withstand screams of that magnitude. Listen to us talk about Time and Rani, written by Pip and Jane Baker, instead. Welcome, one and another one, to the 54th episode of an Unearthly podcast, recording live on May 9th, 2014, and featuring The Twin Dilemma by Anthony Stevens. As ever... damn it. Okay. Yep, I know what my... I copied
Stop you right there! I see the Ronnie.
I copied the script a little bit too much. And we've had enough errors with this. And featuring Time and Rani by Pip and Jane Baker. As ever, you can follow us on twitch.tv/madmat2185, twitter.com/unearthlypod, facebook.com/unearthlypodcast, and youtube.com/manindblackreviews. I am the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt.
Hello.
Ronson.
Always a pleasure.
And Romeo Moon.
Hello.
As some of you may have noticed, last week's episode seems to be suffering from post-regenerative amnesia. Apparently, so am I. So if you were here for the live stream last week, we're going to start with this week's news, and then you can meet up with us for our discussion of Rose on the 16th, or not. These aren't scripted, and we're probably going to talk about completely different things from Sylvester McCoy's premiere than we did last week, so you might as well hang around.
We might have something interesting to bring up this time.
Yep. Our first bit of new news, as I reopen it, is...
as you reopen it, repost it so I can re-click on it.
Okay.
I think "re" is going to be a theme this whole podcast.
So in other words, the redo of the theme would be
an
apt title for this.
Absolutely. So, we are getting a new theme for Series 8. It will be composed by Dominic Glynn, and it will premiere at the Mythmakers Convention next month.
Are we sure this is actually for Series 8?
Oh, hold on. Okay, actually, I just realized it says Doctor Who Appreciation Society and not Doctor Who. So
I was going to say...
I don't know that this is going to be an official theme.
I don't think that's going to be an official one, because I very much doubt that anyone will be composing the main theme but Murray Gold until he refuses to do it more.
Okay, so I did misread that first line there then.
But it'll be a very unofficial.
Well, it's about as official as like the confidential themes and stuff. This is going to be this is something that's being it's not even that official. It's being used for the Mythmakers Convention.
They said it's premiering there, not that it's specifically
for the convention.
I'm trying to remember where I know Dominic Glynn from.
They're going to be publishing it on Amazon and iTunes, so it must be official enough for them to call it a Doctor Who theme instead.
Dominic Glynn, the guy that did all the instrumental music for Trial of a Time Lord.
Okay.
Not all of it, just a couple of episodes, but then he did the arranging for another number of the other episodes.
Let's see, he also did the incidental music for Dragonfire, The Happiness Patrol, and Survival. And he is the arranger for the entire Trial of a Time Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But he did the Mysterious Planet, the Ultimate Foe for Trial. So he did the beginning and the end. And I think that means that Dominic Glynn is also the one that made I think that Dominic Glynn's also the one that did the Trial of a Time Lord Doctor Who theme. known more popularly as kind of the rub-a-dub theme. The one that was used only for that when they took out the howl sound and made it the
Hmm.
I don't recall that being a different theme, but okay.
it was.
Yeah, I think I think Trial 7 and 6 each had separate themes, just minor variations.
6 standard used the original, the same one that the end of the Fourth Doctor and the Fifth Doctor used.
Ah.
It's just they added the little sparkly bits in the opening credits and the end credits.
So yeah, it was the general 80s theme or the early 80s.
Yeah.
theme.
But then when they did Trial, they were trying to, make it look like new Doctor Who,
Yeah.
different. So they had Dominic
Glynn
Glynn.
completely revamped the opening, made it sparklier.
No. Well, it might have been sparklier, but it was still the same basic opening. It was just to a new theme.
They
And
changed.
then,
I know they changed a few of the visuals. They changed which image of the Doctor they used. Because one of them, I
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. They didn't change it that much.
yeah, and then it was, then when Trial of a Time Lord failed, they went to Kath McCulloch, and the wacky theme that was Sylvester McCoy's.
Yeah, the change in the opening wasn't as big between 23 and 24 as between 22 and... the change of the theme from 23 to 24 was a bigger difference than from 22 to 23, but
Yeah.
I seem to recall that being one of the main things of Trial of a Time Lord was it had a different opening than Doctor Who before it, so...
It
I
wasn't...
didn't notice it if they did, but okay. I'll take your
Yeah.
word on it. I don't recall it.
One of the
Again,
openings,
might have been the verboids.
one of the openings I made for this podcast tried to include both Sixth Doctor openings, but I don't think that one ever made it online. On to some somewhat more official but equally dubiously canon news is a novel from BBC Books about the War Doctor. Now, I'm not entirely certain as to why of this, and Randy can confirm if I'm right in thinking this or not, but people are saying that because it's a BBC book as compared to any other book line, that makes it definitely canon, where I was under the impression that all novels are of equally cloudy canon in the eyes
Whoever
of
says
Doctor
that
Who.
is full of it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because the BBC Books has had the line since 1997, I think.
And
I
they've
think it was
yet to
closer to
include a
98,
single
99,
mention
but
of
yeah.
any of their books in any of the episodes, so as far as we're
Yeah.
concerned, it's a bunch
Yeah.
of bull.
Yeah, BBC took over the book publishing line from Virgin.
Yeah, when I understand, it was pretty much when it transitioned from 7th Doctor books to 8th Doctor books.
They have never done anything in the series, as far as I'm aware, that has specifically disavowed any of the books. But at
But-
the same time, they are never used. They're your option whether you believe that they are stories that happened or not.
And most of them, I assume, would still fit in, but not necessarily all the time either.
Yeah.
Although there is a line of argument going around that human nature specifically makes decanonizes the 7th Doctor book that I believe had the same name.
Actually, the story Human Nature and Family of Blood was based on a novel by the same author called Human Nature.
Okay. So I was right.
It is basically the same story, though some of the fiddly bits have been changed.
Yeah.
For one of the things that apparently happened in the Virgin BBC book line is that the 7th Doctor, sometime during his run, had a heart attack. And I might have been operating on just one. And about this time, he decided to reflect and was curious on what life was like to be a human, so he actually chose to be a human instead of running from something.
Okay, see, the description I had heard from a fan who read it was that he did it, quote-unquote, for the fun of it.
Kind of, sort of, but it was more or less on a whim, and I have read it.
Okay.
It was available at one point on the BBC website, and I downloaded and read the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, I
thought it
do
was a
recall
decent
you saying
story.
that you read it. Sure.
But I actually kind of like the newer version better
Yeah,
because
it's the
it
same
seemed kind
writer,
of
isn't it? Didn't he basically just tweak it and
yeah,
make it
Paul
a
Cornell.
better?
Yeah, the thing is though, I mean the original book had the Doctor essentially doing it just because he out of curiosity. And it seemed kind of a severe thing for the Doctor to do because he was curious.
Especially considering how the ending is pretty much like "fuck you, Doctor, for doing this."
Mm-hmm.
But also, coming out of the chess master, I don't really see the
There,
curiosity of it
um,
unless there was a reason to fake the curiosity.
I could see season 24 Doctor doing it.
No, this was continuation stories.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a season 26 Doctor, I would not see doing it. But in terms of specifically being the seventh Doctor, I can see the seventh Doctor doing it early in his run. After that, yeah, I couldn't really see it.
Yeah,
Not
it was I think they were trying to write the Doctor up to the way he kind of felt in the movie
hmm
for the 15 minutes that we saw him.
They wanted to make
The
him the
five
old
minutes you
man
saw.
sitting back with the H.G. Wells novel.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, anything else to add on to
But
the actual book
as
itself?
for the specific book, it's written by George Mann, who I'm not particularly familiar with. The title is Engines of War, and it will be featuring the Time War. It will both Time Lords, Daleks, and a new companion are supposed to feature. And this is either a great idea or a really bad one, depending on what they try to include.
George Mann with two N's.
Yes.
Yes.
He is a kind of a pulp writer in England. He is the former editor of Outland magazine and had also edited a number of anthologies, including the Solaris Book of New Science Fiction, volumes 1, 2, and 3, the Solaris Book of New Fantasy, and two retrospective collections of Sexton Blake stories.
Has he done anything Hulu?
He has written numerous short stories and original Doctor Who audiobooks. I'm looking to see what he has done particular now. Just give me a moment. Doctor Who Paradox Lost. The Human Abstract, which is Telos. No, I'm not getting any links off of this. Short stories. Methuselah in Short Trips Transmissions. Rise and Fall in Short Trips Volume 1. The Paralysis Effect, Doctor Who, The Companion Chronicles. And that seems to be everything I've seen for Doctor Who that he's done. So nothing.
Of those, at least the ones that I recognize the line of, if not the specific titles, he's written classic Who stories.
Good chunk. I mean, Short Trips is basically a collection of many Doctor Who stories from, basically 1 through 8.
And Companion Chronicles are generally Doctors 1 through 4, very similar. That kind of concerns me because the Time War is very much a 9th and 10th Doctor phenomenon. Not necessarily that it includes them, but that so much of the ideology about why it's important comes from those Doctors. For example, the fact that there's just so many terrible things going on that it's pretty much impossible to really portray it in its entirety. Which means that he's pretty much an unknown in terms of trying to figure out what he's going to do with that concept.
Yes. But again, a lot of the Time War is very, very, very vague.
Right, and that's the thing. If he focuses on a small part of it, then he can save that vagueness and still keep the scope of the larger war. Whereas if he tries to include too much, it's not going to come off well, I don't think.
Let's see. I read what you had for this. I might have accidentally gone over it.
There's a synopsis there, by the way. I'm not sure if Matt's
Yeah,
showing
I read the
it,
synopsis. That's what
now.
I'm looking for. Is it seems to be focusing on a small planet.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to do it if it pretty much mostly stays there. But of course, the
Let's see.
synopsis.
It seems to start off that the Doctor is leading a group of other Time Lords into battle, but then in the midst of the fighting, he gets crash landed on a planet.
Here we go. I didn't see this when I was skimming, but just by the character's name, I can tell that
Bulldogs.
it's that's the name of the planet.
Yes.
But just by this character's name, I can tell that they're probably going to be the companion. A young Dalek hunter named Cinder.
Named Cinder, yeah.
Cinder definitely sounds like a companion name.
Although for me, I'm sitting here and I'm starting to get Killer Instinct flashbacks.
Cinder.
Yeah.
But they will end up on Gallifrey, so it's not going to be entirely on the one planet.
To the halls of Gallifrey and set motions a change of events that'll change everything else and everyone, huh?
I guess humans are allowed on Gallifrey during the time.
It might be that it's setting up, that they're setting up that the death of Cinder is what sets off the No More event.
It's possible.
Could be. But we won't know until we actually hear about
that would have to be very well read.
Yeah.
I would have to be very impressed for me to even consider it to be a actual, semi-canon story.
Mm-hmm. Moving on then.
The hardcover release of that is July 31st.
Yeah.
It'll be £12.99.
Which means it'll be about $20 here on hardcover.
Mm-hmm.
Bit over.
And now we go on to some of the news we did talk about last week, but I know Randy has some new developments about that, and I'm going to go ahead and repaste that in the chat for anyone who doesn't want to take the time to find it scrolling up. We've got,
the first
now
one
we
is the
have
Terminator
researched
trilogy.
this, so I think, I was going to introduce it with Matt's impression.
We actually spent a great deal of time on this one in the Lost episode.
That's because we also have very little news, and we started making jokes.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah, it's the fact that Matt Smith is apparently involved in the new Terminator Genesis. Whether it's a remake or a continuation, we don't know for certain because different websites report different things.
You see,
Remakeation.
a black hole destroys the Terminator's home planet. So they go back in time to try and destroy the humans before their own planet can be destroyed. And it ends up causing a whole different version of the heroes.
Or something.
Is that a summary, or is that what you're hoping?
That's him using Doctor Who-isms to
No,
explain
that
it.
was me describing Star Trek 2009.
I like
that's
Star
true,
Trek
too.
2009, but it worked on a certain
I
level.
I liked it in some ways, but it's still easy to make fun of in this context.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it worked for me on certain levels.
Right.
But this is, the Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 were brilliant movies.
Yes.
They're
3
probably
sucked. TV show was apparently mediocre.
TV show was getting better when it got canned.
Ah.
It took a season to kind of find its legs because it kind of staggered around drunk for like half the first season.
Which happens to any show.
And then it was getting really good. By the end of the second season, you're just sitting here, you can't wait for the next episode. And then they canned it. Yeah. Then they foxed it. Anyway. So, Terminator, as Matt said, Terminator 1, Terminator 1 and 2 were great movies, but the series kind of went downhill from there. It had a slight upswing with Terminator, the fourth movie. What was the fourth movie?
I'm trying to remember what it was now, too, and I haven't seen it yet, actually. That's the only one I haven't seen yet. Was it Survival or something like that, I want to say?
It doesn't sound right. I thought it started with an R, but anyway, you guys can look it up and know what it is. Salvation.
Oh, Salvation.
I thought that was the third
Yeah.
one.
That's why I was saying
No,
S.
one was just there was one
Third
that
one
was
was just 3.
Oh, okay.
And it was-
I've only seen the first two myself.
I've seen both 3 and Salvation. 3 was a big pile of crap.
It was
And-
okay at the time, but yeah, looking back on it, I don't look
Well,
at it as fondly.
It completely negated the ending feel of Terminator 2, which was that there was no fate but what they make. The point that was told to you in Terminator 3 was
It'll happen anyways, no matter what.
it'll happen anyways, no matter what. Yes. So it was kind of contrary to what we had established in the Terminator continuity. So we were kind of like, and then Terminator, the Terminator series basically went and said, "Nah, fuck 3."
Well, I know the first movie was pretty much all a self-fulfilling prophecy, where it's basically like, okay, by going back in time, you create the timeline in which you end up living in.
Yeah, which they then proceeded to break in Terminator 2. So really, Terminator itself kind of contradicts itself all the time. A whole bunch of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey bits.
Yes. Yes,
But-
it does.
After Salvation, Terminator's changed hands like 4 or 5 times. At one point, Joss Whedon even made a bid for it. Albeit he did it.
Probably because Summer Glau was in it. The TV show.
Albeit he bid abysmally low for it. They were asking $5 million. He bid $50,000.
Yeah, but also at the time, the Terminator itself was doing so abysmally bad that
Yeah, but
You know.
what I'm saying is the fact that he it was really kind of like a token, you know.
It was basically an I'd like to have it, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Half-hearted attempt.
So now it's in what is it, Paramount's hands?
I think so. Yes, Paramount.
And they've been passing around directors and stuff, and I think they're doing a reboot.
Which makes my Star Trek comparison even more apt.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, this means that now, if they are doing a reboot, they're changing a few things around. That's for damn certain. They've already recast Sarah and John Connor. Did I lose everybody, or did we just lose somebody?
No.
we
we're-
just lost
we're
some
still there.
background noise.
I hit the mute button so that I wouldn't cause noise if I move my mouse.
My internet was a little flaky today, so
We're
please don't make me.
nervous.
Yeah. Anyway, so they've already recast Sarah and John Connor. They've recast Kyle Reese, which was a character only in the original movie, which makes me raise an eyebrow onto what they're thinking. If they are doing a continuation, what the hell are they thinking? And apparently Matt Smith is now cast as a quote-unquote major antagonist with quote-unquote close ties to John Connor.
Which we were not quite sure what to make of that.
And in the original articles also mention the fact that it's a major role that will grow over the course of the trilogy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. There has been a few, apparently, like, casting call shots that I have seen that has him dressed really severely for this. It really lends credence with especially with the major antagonist, which I don't think we knew last time.
We do not.
That he is probably playing an evil Terminator. Whether
So
it's the
he's gonna be a
T-1000 or another bad T-800, we don't know. But factor this. Arnold Schwarzenegger hasn't played a villain in a movie role for
Since the third Terminator movie.
since the last time they did the proper Terminator movie. So the odds are, if he's going to be a Terminator in this film, he is going to be he is probably going to be a good Terminator, which means they still need a bad Terminator, which brings up Matt Smith's possible role.
Well, that would be one way to get around the fact that they're casting Matt Smith as most likely a time traveling character who most likely appears naked at some point.
This is the Terminator
Woo!
franchise. The rules for the Terminator franchise is when you go through time, only organic components can go through time. The Terminators get by this by wrapping their metal cases in flesh.
Essentially, yes.
And then they
So
come
when
through and
you
take
go
people's
through time,
clothes.
you go through naked.
So that means that that line that you were hoping Matt Smith was going to say, he might end up saying.
Your
Clothes.
clothes, give them to me. Yeah, just imagine that in Matt Smith's accent, and then think of Time and the Doctor and watch Bill start to shake.
It's okay, Bill. It'll be alright.
Or Time of the
Your
Doctor.
clothes. Give them to me. This hologram's cold.
The thing is, I've tried to do it with Matt Smith's voice with the English accent and try to be serious, and it just doesn't come
I
through
just
right.
realized something though. In Judgment Day, there was the T1000. What
Yes.
if Matt Smith is the T1100?
Then it becomes more of continuation than reboot, maybe.
And
But-
a little meta, I think.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I mean, at this point, mostly what we have is theory. We know he is an antagonist now. We know it's a major role with the possibility of reoccurring.
Yep. Because essentially Terminators run by model numbers, and every model number looks exactly the same with the flesh on, apparently.
There is another possibility, and I hadn't thought of this one until now. He could be pulling a Gaius Baltar.
Mir?
Battlestar Galactica Baltar in the original continuity was the guy that basically betrayed the entire race, the entire colonials to the
yeah.
Cylons,
Mm-hmm.
and basically became the puppet emperor for the machines in a way. And he had a
So
semi-similar.
he's Mavic Chen?
What was that?
So
Yeah,
he's
I missed-
Mavic Chen?
Still didn't get that. Slow it down.
Mavic Chen, the human antagonist in the Daleks' master plan.
Okay, that's
Oh.
why I
Essentially a
knew
puppet
that the
of
name was
Daleks.
ringing a bell, but it wasn't popping into my head. Yeah, essentially.
Oh, now I'm finally remembering. Okay, yeah. Something like that, kind of.
So it's possible that that's what's happening. Is he was a resistance member that was working really closely with John Connor, but then wound up betraying them all to the machines.
And then maybe the machines at some point take him and make a model based on him and just kill him. Because we don't
Albeit
need the
that-
human
I'll-
anymore.
Albeit that is kind of similar to the plot of Terminator Salvation. I hate to tell you this, Matt.
Oh. Okay, so I just ruined that plot for me. Thanks.
Sorry, Matt.
Well, again, they're rebooting the series, so of course they're going to borrow a few ideas.
Anyway, that's a possibility. Something to be considered anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's talked about it a bit at conventions because he did some bit at the Minneapolis Comic Con. I wish I'd been there.
Don't we always?
He doesn't know. He hasn't given any specifics. I think he's under orders to keep the main name and identity of his character under wraps.
As much as possible.
Yep, like what we didn't know about Noah Clarke in the second Star Trek, the newer Star Trek movie, Into Darkness. We didn't know who he was until, basically the movie came out.
Although his role is a little smaller, so...
Yeah, well, yeah, we know this one's a major role.
Mm-hmm. Or at least
Okay.
will build up into a major one. And I got sirens out in my street.
They're
Matt
coming
Smith
to take you
disappeared naked
away.
in-
They're coming
Matt
to
Smith
take me
appeared
away!
nude in
Ha-ha!
the
They're
middle
coming
of
to
the street.
take me away! Ho-ho! Hee-hee! Ha-ha!
Okay.
So, next article?
Our next piece of news from last week is the BAFTA Awards.
Or actually, there's birthdays. that comes first before the awards?
Oh,
On the
Yeah,
listing you gave us.
we still have no deaths. We should mention that.
I was actually going to save the birthdays for last because I was going to follow it up with, oh, and by the way, still no deaths.
But
Yeah.
then you have the link right in the middle, though.
Well,
That's
also
exactly
why
what I go to first.
I've been posting them in the chat per Randy's earlier request.
Well, yeah, so I can
Each
click on
thing.
them.
A bunch of people
Yeah.
need to scroll up. Okay, BAFTA then. Out of
BAFTA.
order.
Now that you've destroyed my plan, and
Now that you've also made everything out of order, it's your own fault.
Now that you forced me to spoil 10 minutes in the future of the podcast.
Wibbledy wobbledy!
You should tell us this stuff before we start, so we don't spoil your fun.
Yeah, if you're going to change the order, you need to kind of tell me beforehand, Bill.
Well, that's why I'm pasting in the chat. We need Alex Kingston here.
The best
Anyway.
laid plans of mice and men.
Doctor Who, what do men have to do with it?
And you know,
I'd like you all to know
Bill
I'm very
can get
depressed.
those jokes now.
Anyway,
The
Dr.
entire,
Smith-
like, 2 seasons of us making random Hitchhikers references and Bill going, huh?
Brain the size of a planet, and they want me to bring you to the bridge. You call that job satisfaction, because I don't.
Shoot, somebody posted a grumpy cat thing on Facebook the other day, and it was like, this sounds like a perfect Marvin quote.
I stopped to
It-
smell
it-
the
it is.
flowers. It was
Hitchhikers-
terrible.
Hitchhikers is mandatory geek reading. Now you need to watch the TV series. Just saying.
I watched the TV series before. Actually, that was my ex used to go on about Hitchhiker's Guide, like not often, but like she was like a big all into the 42 and everything. She was a big sci-fi comedy person anyway, so it was really in her wheelhouse. So we ended up watching
that and Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf. I'm not. If she ever heard of it, I don't think we ever discussed it.
Whoa,
Oh.
God, that's like the ultimate British sci-fi comedy.
Or she brought it up and it went over my head. I don't know.
You would amazing. I play Anarchy Online, which is a science fiction MMO. Occasionally, I will say something in an open chat channel like Smeg. You wouldn't believe the amount of tells I actually get on stuff like that. People will spawn in. It's like, hey, Red Dwarf fan.
Well, there's also the fact that large swaths of the community have just taken up smeg as a word they use in general. So, like, I heard of smeg like, I eventually had to ask, what is smeg from? Because so many people were using it. Like, it had just become a day-to-day piece of language. And that's when I first heard, oh, Red Dwarf, you should watch it.
Yeah,
That probably came from me, because that's what I use the most when I'm trying to behave myself a little bit.
I personally, when I'm cursing up a storm in the middle of an MMO, I will use Smeg, I will use Frack, I will use Frel, I will use Feltercarb. The one that gets the most, what the hell is that, is Feltercarb.
Feltercarb's the only one I've never heard of.
Yeah.
It's from original Battlestar Galactica.
Oh. Okay. Anyway, BAFTAs.
Yeah. I'm like, I could contribute to going off topic, but we probably shouldn't. Yes,
oh, come
BAFTA
on. We almost ended early last time. It's going to be even shorter this time.
But we have more news.
But we don't have as much to say, because we've already said it. Even if it wasn't
Ever padding again.
Anyway, yes, BAFTAs. They won some from the Craft Awards.
So, Day of the Doctor won the special visual and graphic effects title with Milk VFX, Real SFX, and the Model Unit as the recipients of the award. An Adventure in Space and Time won for makeup and hair design, with Vicky Lang being the person who received the award. Doctor Who at the Proms did not win. They lost out to Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. An Adventure in Space and Time did not win for costume design or editing. because those went to Downton Abbey and The Fall.
And in the TV BAFTAs,
And
Adventure
those are on
nominated for single drama, and Day of the Doctor is up for the Radio Times Audience Award, the winner of which is going to be decided by public vote.
And you have until 6 days from today to vote, May 15th.
And then the actual TV BAFTAs are on the 18th, which means we will probably be giving you the results in 2 weeks when we do Time and the Rani Take 4.
Wow.
We have complete confidence in ourselves.
Oh, it's ourselves I have confidence in. Twitch, not so much.
Yeah, Twitch is definitely the issue here.
Twitch is a might bit twitchy.
A bit twitchy. A wee bit more. Well, let's just say it. It's completely and totally unstable. In the head. It has memory issues.
I can almost make a Star Wars quote here, but I'm holding back. I really am.
I should also note that I think it was 2 weeks ago. If you haven't listened to that, go ahead and listen to it again. But that was the Twin Dilemma, which I accidentally attempted to call this episode. But we did discuss a contest to attend the BAFTAs, which may or may not be over yet. So,
I don't know. That news comes from last week, and it was...
That news comes from a couple of weeks ago.
So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go ahead and click on the Twin Dilemma video and listen to it. And
you'll see the footage.
Yeah.
Probably only available if you are in the United Kingdom. I would not think they would be flying anybody from the United States.
They specifically said that anybody could enter. So, like, I even checked the terms, and there was no terms about being specifically in the UK, which an American contest would definitely say that if that was the case. I would assume
yeah.
The same.
But then again, I'm not sure the BAFTAs assume they're even heard of outside of Great Britain.
Then
that's their own silly fault if they get swamped.
Like, Doctor Who's won for a few years, and Doctor Who's grown pretty far and wide in the past.
Yeah, if I could have thought I could have signed up for that, I would have, because, gee, free trip to England. Yay!
I don't know if I speak the language there.
Oh, I
It's
speak
okay,
the
Bill.
language there very much, thank you.
Sure,
We'll
they
have to
free
get to a nice...
translation services. It's just like Japan.
I would just have to work on my Giles impression.
You really have to work on it that hard? Seriously? That hard, huh?
This is right up. You'll hear from my solicitor.
Well, yes, I could sit in a room and read books all day, and I would do that well, but I drink more coffee than tea on a day-to-day.
That's your fault. Next,
we have, as somebody, I think it was Matt, spoiled, we have birthdays. 3 of them on the same day, which was a bit more timely the first time we attempted to record this. Link. Here it is. Which, of course, it's the link to our own podcast Facebook page, because that was the only place I knew of them all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
But Billy Piper, Russell T. Davies, and Jenna Louise Coleman were all born on the same day in different years.
indeed.
And just judging by how Matt Smith's doctor has been, I'm going to blame him.
It was all his fault. He did something. He had something to do with this. It's a conspiracy.
He used a sonic screwdriver on someone's parents or something.
It's only really an issue if somebody turns out to be somebody else's own grandpa, although the David Tennant, Georgia Moffat marriage cycle is starting to get into that level.
Yeah. Well, you see, Billy Piper is actually Peter Davison's grandmother. But the day in question was April 27th. which I affectionately know as the day that everybody was high because apparently they were too busy on Easter. Seriously, I could not tell you how many people were completely weeded out that came to my part-time job to buy food that night.
Well, you're better than I am. I can't even remember what I was doing that day because, well, it was a day. It happened.
Well, I also work 7 days a week, so I can usually keep track of that much at least.
I work 0 days a week, so, days kind of happen.
Yeah,
I get up, I do stuff, I go to bed.
Absolutely.
I know it's a Monday if I have to go to role playing at Epic.
And you know it's a Sunday if you have a GeekCon meeting.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which is usually the warning sign for the game the next day.
You know it's a Friday if we're redoing a podcast we have previously done.
Correct.
Twitch, no biscuit. Now go in the corner and think what you've done, Twitch.
Happy belated birthdays, Russell, Billy, and Jenna.
From all of us here at Unearthly Podcast. We would have been more timely, but we were caught in a time warp.
It happens some days.
Let's not do the time warp again.
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a time warp.
Anyway.
And our other bit of thankfully not news, as I believe it was Randy mentioned, still no one has died since our recording of the Castrovalva.
I believe it was Castrovalva, yeah.
Yes.
So it's been about a month, and we've had no deaths in the Doctor Who universe.
Which means I think that Kate O'Mara was the most recent.
Yep.
Which means that whoever's been killing the Doctor Who people, she killed him too.
Either that, or they're specifically waiting for us to cover her last feature full-length episode and properly
and do it successfully.
Rumors of the Phantom Doctor Who killer. Little we know that it's actually Colin Baker in his spare time goes around killing other Doctor Who cast. It's like Psycho. It's just suddenly you'll say something and his eyes will flash. It's and then when he says it, oh, it wasn't me, troll face.
Why would you ever think it was me?
You would have a custom version of the Scary Movie mask, which of course was its own custom version of the Scream mask.
Well,
actually,
it would be the Scary Movie mask, but it would be a Scary Movie mask in the shape of the troll face.
Yes.
Then again, this would actually, given the Sixth Doctor's persona and given the twin dilemma, this would actually make a lot more sense when you think about it.
They are reviewing it. I shall kill them.
Speaking of the Sixth Doctor, I should note that after having watched part of Mark of the Rani and trying to prepare for this episode, before I realized that I never have time and I can't even watch the serial I'm supposed to watch, never mind watching two. A lot of I never realized that the Sixth Doctor introduced the timey-wimey detector, also known as the machine that goes ding. Which of course...
No. Tom Baker had one well before that.
Oh, okay.
And I think possibly John Pertwee had one or two.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, John Pertwee had a lot of different little gizmos to try and detect stuff like that.
So I was surprised to see the Sixth Doctor walking around with a timey-wimey detector that went ding. Although it did not mention how many yards it could boil an egg at.
Yeah, you see, the timey-wimey detector is things that go ding is prototype testing for a device he will eventually incorporate into a sonic screwdriver.
Because the sonic screwdriver does that now,
Yeah, it's because it's basically... The sonic screwdriver has by and large taken place of the machine that goes ding because it's now this multi-tool that is ungodly powerful. Deus Ex screwdriver? Seriously?
Yeah, and it keeps getting modded. And modded.
I mean,
in
its original version, the only thing it was good for was, screwing and unscrewing screws and picking locks. And now it has like bioscan, tech scan. It can hack computers.
I'm trying to remember, in the War Games, was it used as a screwdriver?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it was a couple times.
It was used as a screwdriver, and it was occasionally used as a lockpick.
Once or
That
twice
was
it might
it.
have been used as a lockpick, yeah.
And
It
the
just keeps
fourth,
getting more and more powerful.
and the fourth Doctor used it to blow up robots.
Sort of.
That's
Blow up
kind of
doors.
indicative of how the is the Doctor suffering from power creep? That maybe that's why. He's
Well,
becoming
it was
more
the-
godlike.
It was the main problem with this. It was why they lost the sonic screwdriver in the Fifth Doctor era, is that it was becoming too much of a crutch for the Doctor.
That was it JNT that made that call?
Yeah, it was. And
One of the few
originally,
decent calls he made.
originally when I was a kid, I was just like, no, you can't get rid of the sonic screwdriver, no. But as an adult and a writer, I understand why they did it.
Essentially, you're sitting there as an adult going, "Oh, good riddance."
Although
It's like, no, I'm not saying good.
to such-
I understand why.
It leads to such comedic scenes as the Seventh Doctor holding the screwdriver backwards because he's never used one before.
Yep. But also, I mean, think of how much new Doctor Who would be different without the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
They would have to make more props and more devices. Not to mention, we wouldn't have the sonic pens that we have.
It is now a pretty much ubiquitous part of the character. I don't think they could pull the "let's get rid of the screwdriver" again. Thank you.
Especially since the TARDIS can pretty much spit out a
Manufacture
new one
one.
at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, since every version of the TARDIS can pop out its own sonic.
Although,
yeah.
here's an idea: if they slimmed it down and gave some of its features to K9 Mark V, and then K9 got lost for certain episodes.
Oh, so the Sarah Jane Adventures.
I don't know how powerful her sonic lipstick was.
It was pretty basic, but anything that it couldn't do, K9 could do.
Yeah.
And then so they got K9 stuck taking care of a black hole for at least one season.
I thought that
So-
was because of legal reasons in part 2, but yeah.
It was mostly because they were worried about legal reasons with the K9 series coming out.
And they kept getting delayed and kept getting held back.
And then eventually they just said, fuck it. Anyway.
Still, I feel like even our current writing team could do better than some of the excuses that they had not to keep K9 around during the Fourth Doctor era. Hey,
Yeah,
let's throw a beach
probably.
ball in the water.
I found that one to be funny.
It was mildly hilarious.
I couldn't
They
decide
briefly
which
forgot he was a robot and not
I
a dog.
couldn't decide which one was more of an idiot, Romana or the K9 himself.
Well,
Mind you,
K9
that
probably didn't know
particular
that he wasn't waterproof.
Mind you, that particular model of K9 was built by the Doctor, so...
It could have had a wire crossed.
I would
Yeah,
also point out that the
eccentricities.
K9 would have also had to have been deaf, as he slowly crept toward the water with Romana screaming, "No, K9, no!"
That was just a production problem. And by the way, the original production staff hated that dog. They hated that dog
Yeah,
so
that
much.
was the main reason they kept him out of episodes, not because he was too powerful.
It was because the dog wouldn't work on certain surfaces that they were using for this particular episode. Because he was essentially an RC dog.
Yeah.
And also, some of the controllers would mess with the actual production equipment and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and there was some...
It was easier to use than Chameleon.
Well, Chameleon had issues of his own with the fact that the original creator died before giving the instructions on how to use them to anybody on the production team.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about a Doctor Who death that really fucked things up. Because he was actually supposed to be a major companion, and he was a scientific marvel in himself. Because he was actually a breakthrough in animatronics.
Yeah. It would break
But-
down and emit like a screeching, squealing sound, I think is what Nash Bozard described it.
Yeah, but I mean, he was originally designed to be almost a remote manipulated creature where you could, vox through him and everything. Nowadays, it's not as impressive, but this was 1983.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Animatronics
Remind me,
up to that point had to be all trickery and all about hiding the wires.
When we're off the air, remind me what serial that is so I can actually watch it.
He started in the King's Demons
Yeah.
and was there through Planet of Fire, but he wasn't in most of it other than the Awakening because they lost, like I said, the instructions.
Anywho,
So
we got
it's kind
full
of,
circle back into death.
we've got no deaths today.
Bring
We're
out
wait-
your dead.
So, the review proper then?
Actually, let's re-give some of the setup. It is 1987. Doctor Who just came off of hiatus on
Again.
the instructions by BBC controller Michael Grade that the role of the Doctor had to be recast.
Originally, they planned to actually have Colin Baker back at least for a couple minutes to do the regeneration, to which he rightfully told them off.
Mm-hmm. But I was actually going to wait a little bit on that because there's a little further behind the scenes stuff. First of all, the statements, mostly by Mary Whitehouse and a few others, that Doctor Who had been too brutally gross and violent in its last few inclinations. They had tried to soften it up a bit with Trial of a Time Lord, but that didn't quite work. So they go even further this time, and
The one thing Trial of a Time Lord was soft and cuddly.
no,
Nor was it that much fun either.
but that's neither here nor there. It didn't work, is the basic thought.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to try to remake Doctor Who as a comedy. John Nathan Turner is foaming at the mouth because he has to replace his hand-picked, hand-chosen Doctor with somebody on the fly or lose his job. The writers are foaming in the mouth because now they have to write the script generic enough that they can have any Doctor fill into it, yet still trying to maintain the feel of what they're trying to do with the show now.
Mm-hmm.
On a related note, one extra part that made the writing sort of difficult. This is the only regeneration where they didn't even have that one episode lead-in of, the Doctor gets to die in the episode before. This was more on the fly than anything else.
Yeah, and the fact that they didn't really know everything of what was going on in time to do a regular production schedule. So they had to do everything relatively hurriedly, and they were using recycled scripts that they had from the previous year, only they have to change them to reflect the new Doctor and try to meet the new, less violent, less angry things that was coming out from the BBC controller, Michael Grade, who was sleeping with Colin Baker's ex-wife and is probably taking it out personally.
Mm-hmm.
So John Nathan Turner decides to hire a vaudevillian comedian by the name of Sylvester McCoy, a Scotsman. And he's thinking at this point that he's going to make it a basically almost pantomime in a way. If you look at a lot of Sylvester McCoy's early work, you'll notice that it's very much in the kind of similar to what you'd expect from Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton to an extent, although a little less overstated since it's not a silent.
Yeah.
But he's there. They're casting him to entertain more than to tell a story. Sylvester McCoy, at the meantime, is looking to step out of vaudeville and into more serious work.
And this is a slight step that way.
He wants to be in a movie,
I'm in a movie, don't you know?
Anyway,
it's called The Hobbit.
Um. Anyway, so they get together. They cast Sylvester McCoy. Pippin Jane Baker has to write his anything particular and with his talents into the story at the last minute. They go back to their own writing pool and dredge up the Rani from Mark of the Rani because she was popular and they know how to write her. Kate O'Mara, of course, is thrilled to come back because she had so much fun before. And this is what came out of it. I did the summary and the take that didn't happen. Should I do it again, or does someone else feel like it?
You don't want me to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know I don't want you to do it, Bill. You failed.
Shall I try it again?
This is not the summarizer you're looking for.
Bill,
Not the summary you're
Bill,
looking
you
for.
did not even finish watching the episode. Sit down and
watched
shut up.
I watched episode 2. I watched episode 3. Then I watched episode 2.
Bill,
You
I
didn't
will
watch
flick your
the
tender
episodes
ear.
in order. You can't get the things in order when you watch them in order. So
This is
I think
true.
at this point you should sit down and shut up.
And behave yourself.
I'm
The next
kind of
time,
like-
watch them in order.
I'm kind of like Neil Gaiman's version of the TARDIS in that way.
Okay, so should I do the summary again then?
Probably you or me.
One of you two.
Shall
All
I
right,
flip a coin?
Aaron, think of a number between
Oh.
1 and 10.
Okay.
Go first, Matt.
6.
4.
Matt wins.
Again. Okay, Matt, you can do the summary.
Yeah, it
I'm
was the
gonna
same
turn my-
number too. It was 8.
Oh,
Ah. Haha. My even numbers still work for me. Haha. Oh.
well, see, now that I know that, every time I'm going to ask you that, I'm going to choose 8.
And it's never going to be 8 again.
Then
All
it's
right.
gonna be a fight for who goes to pick first. We're always gonna pick 8. Anyway, so
Well, except at GeekCon, at that point, I'm just going to Rochambeau Matt for the right to do the summary.
whoa, hey. No, I got quarters, dude. Dude, I got quarters. We can just flip a quarter. You call it.
All right, you won it, Matt. Go ahead. I'm turning
So-
off my mic.
Alrighty, so and again, because we've also had a bit of padding this episode, we're going to try and keep this a bit brief. Long and the short of it, the story starts up with the TARDIS being under attack. We see all occupants inside on the floor, and we see particle effects going off outside the TARDIS as it apparently starts to crash. The TARDIS finally lands. The Rani, along with a furry creature that we do not see at the time, enter the TARDIS. The Rani tells the creature to ignore the girl and pick up the man, who happens to be the Doctor. They roll the body over, and with a blurry pixely face, it slowly becomes Sylvester McCoy, from a person in a wig, most likely Sylvester McCoy from what we have seen. So the Rani kidnaps the Doctor, takes him to a nearby base on the same planet that they had crashed on, and proceeds to make plans to use him for her means. Sylvester McCoy wakes up and actually, for a change for the Doctor, actually has all of his mental faculties there. In a few brief seconds, he has only a few questions, one of which is, "Who are you?" to which he points to the Rani, and quickly calls her by name and tries to run off. After a bit of tripping about and struggling and threats to break the Rani's machines, the Doctor is finally knocked out and then drugged to give him amnesia. He is then told, while he's under amnesia, goes in disguise as Mel. Meanwhile, Mel is also being captured by one of the locals. The Rani tries to force the Doctor now to fix a broken part of the machine that had apparently overheated and was part of one of the many things that he was more schooled at, apparently. So she needs him to try and fix it for something that will not be described by her, trying to still pretend to be Mel, but also pretending to say that she never saw what the exact thing is supposed to be working for, which we'll cover later. The Doctor gradually starts to piece things together, but also one of the things he comments on is that he needs a tool from the TARDIS. While doing so, he heads off to the TARDIS to also get a clothing upgrade. Um, while this has all been happening, Mel has been abducted, ran off, nearly caught in a trap, and nearly exploded in said trap, and was helped by the what were they called again? The local aliens?
Lacurtians.
Lacurtians. The renegade Lacurtian actually helps her escape the bomb trap, and they continue to be willing partners from there on in.
Hold the phone. Did you say renegade or reggae Lacurtian?
He said
Renegade.
reggae.
I heard reggae, so I'm sitting here thinking of him with a frickin' Marley cap on going, "Run from the trap, Mel! Run from the trap!"
Wow! Does everyone is everyone hard of hearing? Is me? Is the microphone? Maybe it's the microphone.
Hello.
But I said renegade. Don't know where you got
I
reggae
think
from, but I said renegade.
Just ran it together really, really fast.
Maybe.
Anyway, the two of them, under the constant berating of Mel, actually do start to head back towards the Rani's base to try and help the Doctor escape. The Doctor, still under amnesia, starts to help piece things together and is actually then trapped in a room for a short while the Rani herself goes out to get the materials the Doctor needs to finish fixing her machine. Mel finally manages to get into the base and encounters the Doctor, to which they have a fight, saying that each of the other is not who they say they are, until they grab each other's arms over the monitor table and check each other's pulses, to which the Doctor finally realizes that it really is Mel, and then Mel checks his pulses and gets the double beats, and realizes that he's a Time Lord and it must be the Doctor. Apparently, I think she must have heard that he regenerates, but has not actually seen it happen before, so she was caught off guard a little bit, but not as much as one would usually be. So after she figures that out, she's a little more accepting of it. The Doctor then kind of mumbles about how he seems to be a rather bad incarnation, since he's being so easily fooled by everything that's going on just by a little bit of amnesia. But they also figure out that there's something very sinister going on behind the door, as they can hear what sounds somewhat like a heartbeat going on back there. A further exploration of the base reveals that there are a number of very popular scientists, as well as a few that we don't know about. I don't think they showed them all of us up close on screen, but they showed a few, like Einstein in particular. And that they're being used for something and are apparently hooked up to the machine, and then from the machine hooked up to the thing behind the secret door. Mel is then told to go back with the Lacurtians to try and get some help to stop the Rani, while the Doctor himself stays there to continue faking a little bit longer on. The Rani catches on that he's faking and finally tries to have him captured as well. He manages to make his escape, while Mel accidentally also gets caught. But in his escape, the Doctor managed to get off with a thermos-like device that was apparently a power supply for the machine. The Rani's in hunt for the Doctor, not only for his brilliance in helping to continue fixing things, but also for the power source that she needs. And the Doctor finally sets up a trade to try and save Mel, since he figures out that she has been captured. Upon doing so, the tripod, I think they call it, the three-eyed bat creature, the four-eyed bat creature there.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
So it was something like that. None of us watched this recently.
I did too, but I'm like, at least an episode where they specifically named it.
I'm just having a complete and total brain shutdown.
Yeah.
I'm bad with names anyway. So
Yeah, and I'm
not
bad with names
surprised.
too, which is why I'm kind of drawing a blank at the moment.
I nearly fell asleep during this the show, so managed to get through it.
Tetraps.
There we go.
Tet
Tet
traps.
traps.
The Tetraps, the leader Tetrap manages to get the power source, and then makes a comment about the Doctor being a rather foolish, unworthy foe. To which he kind of
The
questions
head
what that was.
Tetrap, I think his name was Urak, wasn't it?
All I only remember is that
Because I
one of
think I
them was
remember
given a
Ronnie screaming,
name,
Urak,
and
Urak,
I just
get in
referred to
here.
him as leader because I couldn't remember the name. But again, he makes light of the Doctor, then runs off, to which the Doctor is questioning Mel as to what he was on about, and to which, as Mel gets close to the Doctor, she just vanishes, and he realizes it was a hologram. In his rather still under control anger, the Doctor finally decides that he needs to go off and save Mel. They manage to break into the base. He is captured actually captured on his attempt to get in. Is shot at comatose again, and brought in, and this time actually put in as part of the machine. As Mel continues to try and break free, still being used by Rani because of her knowledge of running computers, the Rani checks in on the secret room where we see a giant foam brain with wiggly bits. The brain is apparently the consciousness of all the people that she has captured, and she is trying to figure out something having to do with a meteor that is going around the planet. Apparently the meteor is made out of what's it called?
Strange matter.
Strange matter. The strange matter, when collided with other strange matter, can cause a huge explosion and could desolate a huge part of the galaxy. They still don't know exactly why she wants to do something to the strange matter, so they are still trying to figure out that last little piece of the puzzle. However, while the Doctor's brain thoughts are being put into the giant brain, he actually starts to fight from within the brain, causing lots of mental problems with trying to gather up the information they need, and actually even coming up with a split personality, I think they were saying.
It's kind of what was happening as the Doctor's interference was causing all the individual minds that were making up this big unimind to break down.
Yeah.
So they were all behaving like themselves instead of like one mind, one thought. He was deborgifying them.
To which, of course, the Rani comes in with a raging fury, and is actually tricked into the Doctor by trapping her in the exact same case where he was, but not actually hooked up to the machine. The Doctor and Mel then make their escape and come back to the Lacertians to try to make plans to have a rebellion against the Rani, and have to help them out of ankle bracelets that would cause them to explode, because the Rani was making plans to make sure that they weren't going to be a further interference with the rest of her plans, since things were nearly done. Freeing the Lacertians, the Doctor then comes back with Mel into the base, and they start forming the last of their plans, and also trying to figure out what exactly the Rani is doing and how to actually stop it. To which they finally figure out that the giant brain was bringing these intelligences together, these minds together, to try and make a new material that would be essentially a lightweight version of strange matter. To which they did have actually a fault in it, but the Doctor accidentally blurted out a correction, and actually gave them the formula they needed. Further battle ensues, but they do, however, manage to get their hands on the brain while the Rani's slightly imprisoned, and try to figure out a way to delay the shot of the missile with the lightweight strange matter. The Lacertians show up to try and fight with the Rani. The Rani is forced to still flee in her TARDIS, even though she could still technically go back and try and fix things. The time was delayed, the rocket goes off too late, and she tries to kill the Lacertians, to which it only manages to destroy her base. She's then forced to go into her TARDIS and then flee, and also, while doing so, is trapped with the Tetraps, who are planning to bring her back to their planet in the plans to apparently take her intelligence for their own, I believe was one of their...
Except I think that was a little bit more of a a physical way of getting it. I think it kind of implies that they were just going
Yeah,
to
it
physically
kind of implying
force
that
her
it would
to
probably
solve
be
its
killing
problems.
her in order to get her intelligence rather than just hooking her up to a machine.
Or rather, yeah, like torture her to get answers and such.
Mm-hmm.
You know, them to be less violent and stuff.
Yeah, they'll be less violent and dark about things, despite the giant furry bat monsters that probably would have scared the hell out of children at the time. Especially with those huge tongues of theirs. At the very end, however, to wrap things up, the Doctor does have a chemical that the Rani made to help free the Lacertians from another thing that the Rani has set up, where she had killer bugs that would kill them upon release. The renegade Lacertian actually takes it and pours it out, stating, along with their female leader, that they will find a way on their own. They shall learn to stand on their own from now on. And they leave it at that. The Doctor does his usual goodbye hat wave and leaves in the TARDIS.
Now, before we start to discuss the actual episode, I've given a lot of crap to the the pre-opening sequence. What do you guys think of that, though? Do you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was just...
They needed something, but the 3D animation in particular was not that great. It's very confusing.
Yeah, you could tell that they were being influenced by things like Star Trek: The Next Generation
But they
and
didn't have the
Last
money for it.
Starfighter, but they had no budget for it.
Part of the question, let me rephrase it to at least for a partial part of the answer. If you were an 8-year-old in 1986 living in London, how would you feel about the pre-opening sequence?
Again,
You mean
the 3D.
87, but yeah.
Again,
How
the
about
pre.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Again, for me, even as a kid, the animation would be kind of but at least the setup that we have the Doctor back, and all of a sudden he's transformed into this new guy again. Holy smoke! That's new. But yeah, the animation is just really. I understand they're trying to throw a whole bunch of ideas and a lot of budget at this, but they did not have the budget to make it cohesive.
And I think what's kind of convinced me since I originally complained about it to cut it a little more slack is there's no way they could have had the budget to actually do that with the actual TARDIS prop and the actual sets and actual special effects.
That's true, but they could have done it a different way.
Yeah. They could have basically said, screw, big budget special effects, let's go back to model work.
They could have done it with
that budget to make it the best damn model work we can.
Yeah, they could have done it with model work. They
So
could have actually.
They could have pulled the Day of the Doctor with it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look what they managed to accomplish with action figures.
Yes, but also even if they wanted to go with only visual effects, there are so many ways they could have done it with just purely images and a few decent explosion effects that they just digitally added on screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that would have made it look much better. And you'd actually get the point across a lot easier.
Yeah, I still like the reading of this episode that it starts off with Doctor and Mel playing a video game. They're so bored by it that they both pass out and the Doctor regenerates. What leads to the Rani showing up.
I just personally think he slipped on a brick. Banged his head against the console, and that was the end of it.
I've had it with this carrot juice. Wow.
Oh yeah, he throws down a jar of carrot juice, slips, and then bangs his head on the console, and then everything goes crazy.
Mel did it. She poisoned him. Somehow.
Either that or the Doctor knocked something over while strangling Mel.
There we go. Mel was trying to get him to do calisthenics, and he was just... He hadn't eaten as much as he wanted to, so he was lightheaded and hit his head.
Any kind of blow to that man's head would have
In
fixed
the
a few
ultimate
synapses.
irony, he had just mistaken Mel for the Rani when he did it.
The ultimate irony, going back to the carrot juice idea. Carrot juice, you're worse than the Ronnie. Smashes it on the ground, slips, hits his head.
Although I do like the way that he finally convinces Mel that he's the doctor, other than the heartbeats, like to trust him long enough to do the heartbeat check, is by mentioning that he hates carrot juice.
Yep. Carrot juice, ugh. I never liked carrot juice.
Like, carrot juice, it's your favorite drink. I hated that stuff. Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
So
the special effects. The special effects mostly left me going, "What? Huh? What?" And
the
first
3D
time
effects, yeah, in particular.
Yeah, the first time I saw them, I think it was on the DVD, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" Because they weren't on the original Lionheart edit, which took all 4 episodes and pieced them together.
They probably cut it to time, but also they probably cut it because it made no sense.
Yep. They just started with the Doctor Who opening. Although we did see the bit with them in the TARDIS as it was shaking, and the stuff that fell over.
Mm-hmm. And and even that without the digital 3D stuff, was getting the point across a lot better than the 3D stuff did.
Yes, it did.
So you didn't see the TARDIS flying across the screen, shitting rainbows.
Correct.
Which
No,
actually,
you saw that.
They saw the rainbow landing.
Yeah, you saw the rainbow landing.
They just didn't see the TARDIS in full 3D shooting out particles at random.
That meme people do with the cat and the rainbow. Do you know what I'm talking about?
What?
You know that meme that people do with the cat?
Oh, you mean Nyan Cat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody's done that with the TARDIS.
Nyan Cat, yeah.
I've seen that already.
Oh, okay.
We know what Nyan Cat is, Bill. Everyone knows.
If you probably like YouTube or Google Neon TARDIS, you'll find it.
Neon TARDIS.
I wonder if anyone's actually done it to the actual footage.
No, it's all the.
There's actually several images.
Yeah, it's the Neon Cat, and replacing the Neon Cat with other stuff is a very popular meme.
Right.
There's one with Dr. Who's and Derpy in it.
Yeah. Anyway. No, my favorite of those memes has 30 seconds of Neon Cat followed by somebody freaking shooting the Neon Cat.
Does the Duck Hunt dog come up and giggle at?
Oh, I just found the one that Aaron was talking about. Yeah, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So the beginning of the episode, you actually figure out that the Doctor, if it wasn't for external interference, would have had a fairly mild regeneration.
Yes. It would have been a nice change, too.
He had a momentary lapse of memory when talking to the Rani, but immediately recovered.
I went, and who are you?
The
Rani!
On its own begs the question of why. I mean, of all of his regenerations, well, arguably the 8.5 to the 9th, but we don't know that for certain. That's the only regeneration that's nearly as coherent as this one. Unless they were working with the idea that maybe just because he was getting more used to regenerating, he might have done it a little
Or
better.
it was just because it was a change of pace.
Yeah.
I think the writers were just saying, okay, we've done a pretty bad regeneration.
Let's go with a pretty mild one and then try to go from there.
Regeneration. Let's go with a light regeneration
Well,
then it's eased.
We've done a bad regeneration, a hospitalization bad regeneration, semi-bad regeneration, a pretty bad regeneration, and then a psychologically bad regeneration. Although with this particular pair of writers, it could have simply been, hey, you know, in order to build up our character of the Rani, we're going to have this regeneration go surprisingly well,
And then have her
Specifically
mess it
so
up.
that Rani can fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, she fucks it up, and then he basically spends the next, like, half the episode in this depressive funk. Almost like manic depressive moments, because he has the moments like where he has the spoons going and he's happy. But the rest of the time, he's kind of bitter and,
Questioning
this is my
himself.
lot in life, yeah.
And questioning himself when the Ronnie keeps saying that it was his decisions when they weren't.
That's the Ronnie dressed up as Mel.
By the way, I like the Ronnie's actual outfit in this a lot better than her and Mel as Mel. Just saying.
Dude, Mel was wearing leg warmers in 1987.
As we mentioned before, everything was very neon.
What was with the
Speaking of
shoulder
leg
pads
warmers and
now?
neon, I just found out about Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball, Double Dragon Neon. Gotta play that sometime. But anyway.
With Mel's shoulder pads.
I don't think there's so much shoulder pads. I think that maybe there are small shoulder pads in there, but there are some natural poof there in the shoulders too.
Seems.
It's just one of those really poofy shouldered shirts. But again, still, the Ronnie's outfit is a lot better than Mel's.
Well, yeah, like I said, leg warmers in 1987. I mean, 1984, you can see leg warmers, but 87, it was kind of on its way out, wasn't it?
Leg warmers tend to keep fluxing, to be honest. Depends on how you do them. Which again brings me back to that Double Dragon game because it's very much a 80s inspired game. It's awesome.
Anyway.
Speaking of 80s inspired.
Yeah, everything in this thing is like neons or pastels. It's like, what the hell, man?
The only thing that wasn't neon bright was the Doctor himself, although he was for the first episode or two because he was in the previous Doctor's outfit.
Even that freaking question mark jumper.
I like you. One thing you fixate on.
Yeah, the one thing you seem to fixate on. See, I can completely almost ignore it.
Well, the thing is,
It's so
Sylvester
well-
McCoy hated that jumper. He despised that jumper as much as the Sixth Doctor hated his coat.
So I'm kind of wondering if he was talking with the artists for the Virgin book, and he's like, "Hey, listen, can you do me one favor? What's that? Get rid of this."
See those question marks? Just erase them right off the picture. I can't say I've seen many of the Virgin book covers, but I can tell you that the few that I have with Sylvester, I have not seen the jumpers, so...
From what I've seen, all three of his costumes are present, just from having Google searched it.
All three of his costumes?
Yeah, the light one, the dark one, and the non-question mark one.
Okay. Yeah, because the outfit, other than that, is more or less the same, but the jumper, the jumper sweater is replaced by a brown vest in basically what is the TV movie costume.
Still, it is an upgrade compared to the eyesore.
He also lost the scarf and the paisley tie. So it's like he kept the Panama hat, but everything else that was making him distinctive got removed.
I wonder if the question mark umbrella is in any of those.
What's that?
And I wonder if the question mark umbrella is in any of those.
I don't know. I know it was gone by the Eighth Doctor's movie era.
Right.
I have no idea if they ever wrote it as like being destroyed in a book or something.
I have no idea how long we've been at this.
But no, it's I just find the question mark jumper just fairly ridiculous, and it's like the ultimate extension of JND's whole question mark theme. I mean,
Had to because
before.
he couldn't fit in the same shirt as Colin, so he had to lose. He finally had to lose the question mark collar.
Mm-hmm. But still, I mean, before it was just two question marks on the collar, and you can by and large ignore that.
Yeah.
But God, he had freaking question marks all over the place. It was nuts.
Well, to be fair, he only originally started with question marks specifically on that vest, and
Mm-hmm.
then the other ones came from fans.
Yep. But even so, some of the rest of it, even that, the rest of his outfit, I'm kind of fond of. Just that particular piece, I don't like. Yeah, Mel's outfit, go away. The Ronnie's is okay. It works fine for an alien ruler of some note.
Or an evil scientist.
Mm-hmm.
An evil
Kind of
superpowered
glittery.
scientist.
Very glittery, in fact.
Very glittery, yes. Which again lends itself to the 80s.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Or
we talking
sequins.
about glittery. We were just talking about the '80s.
Even our
And
movies had glitter. Ever watch Legend?
um, the Lacurtian's outfit was just I'm sorry if you
Neon
have.
yellow and neon orange. Ugh.
Yeah, but if you have something that you're making as a neon yellow green skin, you should not have their robes be the same color.
This is true.
Just a general rule of thumb to people ever making aliens, because they looked like walking bananas.
Actually, they looked like walking fruit that were crossbred between bananas and oranges.
Of course,
Especially,
I'm go ahead, Aaron.
especially when they ran, especially when they ran with their arms off to the side.
Yeah, they did look even more silly.
Of course, my brain now keeps going back to the verbal miss here
Freakazoid.
we heard. No,
Huh?
the reggae lacurtion that
Oh,
we mentioned earlier. It just won't leave my brain. It's a concept I like. Imagine somebody like Craig Charles in lacurtion makeup playing a reggae lacurtion.
what you doing, man? Oh god, it would have been the precursor to Jar Jar Binks.
I would love
Oh,
it.
jeez.
I would be laughing my ass off the
Oh,
entire time. Just as Mel's making an escape, you're just suddenly sitting there and you just hear boom, 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 boom. And there's just this Glickertion and dreadlocks and a big freaking multicolored hat going, "Hey man, you want to be running this way?" It's like Cool Runnings, the alien Cool Runnings. I would be laughing my ass off. I would be reviewing it as being ridiculous, but I'm finding it endlessly amusing now.
how do you spell Lacursion anyway?
Lecursion or Sian. Let me see if Time and the Rani actually, the wiki page actually has it spelled. Let's see. Lakertyan.
Slower?
L like lake,
Yeah.
like Laker, Tyan.
LT? What?
Like Laker,
Yeah,
Laker,
L.
Tyans, or
T.
Lecursion.
T. Ugh. And Rani. Wikipedia.
finding what you're looking for?
Starting to. Incursions. There. Yep. What? No. Images. There we go. Because there's very few incursion pictures, and it's just like, let's get better pictures of these people. Just to show you how silly they are. I'm kind of also hoping for a running pose, but I'm not seeing one, sadly.
Because, yeah, they run with their arms behind them like they're trying to...
Be more aerodynamic.
Yeah.
To which, again, my brain goes, Freakazoid. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Man, my mind just won't leave the frickin' reggae Lacursion going. That's... Yeah, I can't find a Lacursion run pick, so...
Sadly.
Yeah.
But yeah, just take it for take our word on it. Whoosh, whoosh.
Yeah, they run with their arms behind them, and this weird kind of flapping motion as they do back and forth. Like they're trying to swim like a fish while running. It's kind of ridiculous. Ridicio. And I think we gotta build
don't
that.
Run that way, man.
Yeah, yes. I don't know if you heard what we were talking about.
I heard something about swimming like a fish while running, and I was just going to wait until I could chime in.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Lacursion run. It's like Freakazoid. They're trying to look fast, but it's only ridiculous.
Yeah, because there's only so many ways a human can run, and that really didn't look like one of them.
I've watched enough anime people running in ways that I could never imagine a real human running to not be bothered by things like that.
Yeah, there's actually many anime characters that run in that same way. Only their arms are straight instead of this flapping motion.
Yeah.
Anime characters tend to run like a chocobo, and I've never seen a human do that.
This was
Especially
the closest
with ninja powers. But there's a certain aesthetic to that, though, too. The hand-drawn, rather compared to the clunky, real human trying to run like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a certain fluidity you see in
Still,
the
I think I've tried to run like that when I was younger, and I think I pulled it off better than most of the people that were doing it in this episode.
Even as a kid, you were going, that looks ridiculous. I could do it better.
Who's thinking of Naruto, the Lacursion crossover?
I'm still on the reggae Lacursion, man.
Don't be hating, man.
Ronnie searching high and low for the duck.
And now we lost half our audience.
Goodbye,
North Africa!
The audience
Who all
just
is
learned
watching this?
the audience just learned that Randy can sing, so maybe they'll be drawn to keep coming back for more. New gimmick.
Apparently, I can just sing bad reggae. So
new gimmick. Randy sings a new genre every week.
Well, we do
Oh,
have
God.
3 viewers.
We do have 3 viewers. One of them
is me.
Randy.
One
One of them
them's
is
me.
me. Oh, it's us.
One of them is not me.
Well, thanks for ruining the mystery, Aaron. Oh.
I mean, we must have a viewer.
Let's have a viewer. Yeah. Shh.
I figured when I saw 3 that it was probably 3 of the 4 of us. Just saying.
I was kind of figuring 2, but I didn't want to ruin the fantasy, you know? Now it's gone.
Yeah, well, we're doing a repeat. Anybody that was here kind of said that, or found out that we were doing the same thing again and probably left.
Oh, this is actually a pretty decent image.
What's that?
The doctor tipping his hat outside of the Ronnie's base. It's actually a decent quality picture.
Mm.
You can even see the wrinkles in the Pamela hat. and the texture and the jumper. Just a really nice, decent-sized picture for a change. I usually have to deal with really blurry ones I find.
Mm. Yeah, and you can tell it's the base because it's got those weird dragon things on it. The architecture sets that they did for this were actually pretty cool.
Yeah. A lot of the outdoorsy architecture stuff that they did was actually pretty decent.
Of course, they're built into a quarry, so all those worlds that look like freaking gravel quarries.
But at the same time, that means they can construct whatever they want.
The Doctor runs into one like every other week. Nearly every Star Trek away team wound up in a gravel quarry.
I still can't get over the fact that the most recent Power Rangers episode, it was actually, there was a flashback set on a quarry, and it looked less like a quarry than the average
non-quarry
setting.
Science fiction set?
Yes.
Yep.
The one time you include a quarry, and it doesn't look like one. You had one job.
You gotta wonder if that was deliberate, because the fact is like, oh crap, we use these quarries all the time.
Let's try a different position up there.
Quarry, but let's not put it in a quarry so that when we use the quarry again, they won't think it's a quarry.
Let's put it up there. We never shoot up there.
You're right. You're going to mislead the entire audience as to what a quarry actually is.
Because I'm babbling like Gadget, apparently. I do that, by the way, just to let you know. If you hadn't figured it out already, I do babble a lot.
Really?
No!
Really?
No!
That was aimed more at the audience than you, Bill. You should have figured it out by now.
There's someone here who babbles?
Or goes on tangents? For shock and for shame.
When I mean babble, though, I mean like Willow babble. I just kind of talk really rapidly sometimes, and it just kind of switches topics really, really quick.
I still think more of the Doctor than anything else when you describe it.
It's most of what I babble like, to be honest. And occasionally I will, when babbling, lapse into a British accent, and then it really becomes the Doctor. It's actually kind of impressive when I do. I've been accused of what I refer to as tenanting, because after New Who, it basically became David Tennant style speak, including a few of his dramatic, like, wow, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I do that quite a bit now. Although I think I've been adding a few Smithisms of late.
So we were talking also about the colors and the effects. The traps that the Rani set up. We have to cover those
They
again.
were really proud of that effect.
They were definitely happy with that effect, and I don't blame them. It still looks somewhat decent. It's not perfect, but somewhat decent.
The spinning bubble, aka the excuse for Mel to use more of her lungs.
Yeah, see, what the thing is,
like, a velociraptor doesn't screech as loud as her.
Trap in the way that it's used the two times that Mel's not in it, but the time that Mel is in it, it feel like they specifically made it more complicated and more expensive to maintain, specifically so that Mel would not die.
Well, it's basically what happened in that one is the fact that instead of bouncing off and hitting it, the way the traps work is essentially that disc. Although I'm not too sure about the disc, because the one scene where they actually disarmed it, the disc disappeared too, so that's kind of like, what the fuck? Is that the center of the disc has a shape charge in it. And the thing is supposed to basically bounce around until the shape charge hits on something, which is contact explosive, and the whole thing goes kablooey. So what happened in Mel's case was, instead of hitting sharp objects, the disc crashed down into a pond and spun out. The water slowed down its revolution and basically stalled it.
Without a really hard hit that it needed.
Yep. so that she was able to just drift to shore, and they were able to disarm it. It was like a 1 in a million shot. So
Like,
that particular bit,
I guess blowing Mel to bloody bits on the Seventh Doctor's first outing might not have gone over. Well, actually, it might have gone over very well.
yeah.
Depending on who
besides,
you ask.
she has to make it as far as Paradise Towers because she was actually pretty good at that. After that, you could kill her anytime you wanted.
Wow. Welcome to
I don't
DC
like
Comics,
Mel.
folks.
I don't like Mel.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, her screams hit my spinal cord and go up and down it.
It makes your legs woggle up and down.
It's like
she is the prototypical sonic screwdriver.
Yes, it's bad, and she spends most of this episode proving to people that even 18 months off, her lungs still work fine.
Well, that's the thing. She took 18 months off to work on her screaming.
And then she needs to show the entire world.
By the way, I found out I can hit a new pitch.
I hope she went into opera after this.
I don't know. She came from essentially the London equivalent of Broadway, where she was known for such roles as Peter Pan. In fact, when she first got cast, they had little news articles about Peter Pan coming to save the Doctor. I'm not kidding. I had a book that had a whole bunch of these article clips in it, or scans of them essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the ones that
if anyone fills a Peter Pan role in their own mythology, it's the Doctor all the way.
Come with me and
That's Willy Wonka.
hey, it's still just as crazy. And it's all about abducting children anyways, so what's the problem?
Willy Wonka didn't abduct children.
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, he had some of them slain.
He brought their parents with them.
Of course, the entire 11th Doctor's story was essentially Peter Pan in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly.
Moffat. Originality, please.
Stop using Sherlock Holmes, and please stop borrowing from Peter Pan. Something else.
He can have Sherlock Holmes all he wants. Just step down from Doctor Who, please.
I'd say various versions of the Doctor use far different things from Peter Pan in different ways. Moffat's really the only one that played with the aging thing, so that's where he has it. Where still the running away into Never Never Land was not exactly an unknown thing to Doctor Who before that.
No.
Although the TARDIS is not quite as jealous as Tinkerbell.
I don't know. The way it acted to Clara sometimes.
Yeah. That's because she was a fact.
Because she was
According to Russell T's writing, anyway.
Clara? You mean Moffat's writing?
No,
Russell
because
T.
if I'm understanding it right, essentially the explanation given in Utopia is why the TARDIS did not like Clara.
No. No. Not at all. Not even close. Clara is not like Jack. She is not a fixed point in time.
No, she is not.
If anything, she's a paradox, but I'm not sure how much of one.
A paradox
Jack is
created by a timeline that was written out of existence. Even more.
But her timeline is not written out of existence.
It was by name of the Doctor wrote time of the Doctor out of existence, pretty much.
What?
Strike that. Reverse it.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I said the name's wrong.
I do that all the time, but I've gotten used to figuring it out. Basically, name of the Doctor reveals the fact that the Doctor's supposed to die on Trenzalore. In Time of the Doctor, that never happens. So the question remains is, what made it change? Because there really isn't an explanation. But then again, this is Stephen Moffat. Why are we expecting an explanation? Anyway, we're talking about Time and the Rani, not Time of the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
For that one, see our rant from a few months ago.
Yes.
Yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Rani herself, she was not quite as good of a character in this one as she was in her debut, but she's still a fairly unique enemy for the Doctor. She's borrowing a little bit more of the Master's playbook this time, but she's still more self-aware than the Master ever was.
Mm-hmm.
Also, she's playing it a lot more for laughs when she's trying to be Mel.
Yeah, that was the only part that I was actually having fun of. Is the point
She
where
was
she's
getting more and
basically
more
fed up.
sarcastic.
Has anybody
where she
other
was-
than the Doctor and the Rani broken the fourth wall in the show?
I think it may have happened a couple of times, but it was only like single line breakings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas-
it's like
Whereas the
Android,
Rani here pretty much pulls a Daffy Duck.
where Android does it quite a bit, and that's because a lot of these people are Shakespearean trained, and so they know to speak that. And a lot of times in Shakespeare, you will turn and speak to the audience.
Oh, that's right.
As the side.
There was that miscommunication in Castrovelva thing where it was intended to be an aside to himself, and he ended up doing it as a soliloquy to the audience instead. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Not Castrovelva, Androzani.
Androzani, yeah.
And that was for Shara's Jack, I think, or was that the?
Yes. Oh no.
It was for the person. It was for the evil
Morgus.
businessman.
Yeah,
Yes,
Morgus.
Morgus.
Yeah. And there were some similar style asides done in like the Invasion of Time with Andred, where he's like talking about K9, and he's saying it to the camera essentially when it's essentially an aside to himself.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of Shakespearean training.
Are you saying that Daffy Duck is Shakespearean?
A matter of fashion.
Actually, probably, I think the actors that did play Daffy Duck were Shakespearean trained. Yes. And a lot of the people that wrote were influenced by several works, including Shakespeare. And Wagner. Kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
Kill the wabbit.
Sometimes more directly than others, but yes. We were mentioning earlier that at one point Bugs Bunny was imitating Liberace.
Yep.
This was pre the podcast. This was when we were playing AO, but yeah, we were doing the George. This is my friend George bit from
Liberace.
Yeah. And so, Warner Brothers stole a lot from a lot of places, and Shakespeare was one of them.
So in order to go from less vaudeville to more Shakespearean, McCoy participated in a Looney Tunes-esque episode to point out the similarities between Looney Tunes and Shakespeare.
McCoy in this is almost a Looney Tune.
He is a Looney Tune.
I mean, there's that point where he's escaping from the lab,
He's
and
Bugs, and the Ronnie is a blend between Elmer and Daffy.
He's almost the Bugs. Bugs would be a lot more in control if this was going on. If you had the Ronnie versus the Bugs Bunny straight out, the Ronnie would get her ass kicked.
It's more of a 50-50 between Bugs and Daffy.
But if Bugs had amnesia due to a drug put in him by someone, or if he got hit on the head by an anvil and lost his memory,
then he'd think he was a chick, because it's Bugs Bunny.
I have bumps.
But yeah, there's several scenes where you see like Sylvester McCoy turning a corner and he's doing the hop 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 hop
Well,
thing, which
I've
you
gotta
expect
say,
from frickin' Warner Brothers.
see that makes it a little bit more palatable when it's so easy for him every time he turns the tables on the Ronnie. Both when he just like points in one direction and it's so ridiculously obvious, and she falls for it, and then he ties her up and runs away.
Mm-hmm.
If I see them as Bugs and Elmer,
Be very
I can accept
quiet. I'm hunting doctors.
Jeez.
I'm almost seeing an entire 7 minutes Looney Tunes short that's basically Time and the Ronnie done full on Looney Tunes. Involving Bugs Bunny in the freaking hat being
Mel
chased
would've gotten
around by
blown up
Elmer
and-
Fudd in drag.
Mel would have gotten blown up and her mouth would have gone to the back of her head.
No, Mel would have been played by Daffy Duck with a red wig on. Would have gotten blown up in the thing. You just have the beat going. You're despicable.
Still, that scene when the doctor is telling Mel how evil the Ronnie is, and he's essentially like, she's, I forget the wording he used, but it's like essentially she's ethically deplorable and zero morals, and she just like turns to the camera and she's like, I'm overwhelmed. And that felt like such a Daffy moment right there.
Well, that's the other possibilities. Instead of Elmer, Daffy gets to play the Ronnie.
And Daffy has played the semi-villain before.
Yeah.
Even so, that makes at least one of the Lacurtians played by the Roadrunner.
I was just gonna say, so who plays the Lacurtians? A whole bunch of Tweety birds? I guess the
That
leader
would work
should be
too.
played by Roadrunner.
Does that mean the Tetrats?
That means the Tetraps, at least their leader has to be Wile E. Coyote.
Yes, exactly.
No. If the Lacurtians are Tweety birds, which actually makes more sense because of the yellow,
Then they're all Sylvesters.
Sylvesters. Yes.
So does that make Mel the grandmother?
No.
Old lady?
No. She's far too sane for this.
She's hard to sane for this, yeah.
Oh God, it would be Porky Pig.
Porky Pig and Red Wig.
I think Matt's starting to hurt now.
God. I feel like I need to commission this. We could have the Brigadier done up as Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Who is Foghorn Leghorn?
The Brigadier.
I say 5 rounds rapid.
I did say, boy, I'd like to have an alien menace I could actually shoot.
Maybe Benton could be the Chicken Hawk.
Actually, my choice for Foghorn Leghorn, I think, would actually be Rassilon. I say, this is the game of Rassilon.
I say, boy, you want immortality too? Oh, no. Wise choice, Doctor.
Yeah, and that Granny would be like Chancellor Flavia or something.
Yeah, Granny would be Chancellor Flavia. Well, I never. As she's pushed off.
This could be an entire web series.
Exactly.
Every episode of Doctor Who redone in 7 minutes with Warner Brothers characters. Maybe a little longer for some of the longer episodes.
And it would get more viewers than we do.
Probably.
Does this mean I need to learn Flash animation again?
Oh, Flash animation.
It's actually not that hard if you figure out how to do it, how to make it easy on yourself.
Yeah, but a lot of
See?
Flash animation's kind of disjointed.
And rubbery looking.
Hey, one of the most popular children's television shows out there is done with Flash animation. So
Yep, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
A lot
done with
of
Flash animation.
A lot of cartoons done today are done in Flash animation. That doesn't mean I like them.
Yeah. I can tell the difference between hand drawn or like traditional, more traditional and
More digital.
and Flash, yeah, or I should say Flash and non-Flash. There is, no matter how many keyframes you put in, there's always seems to be that little bit of stretchiness to them.
Now,
Or they look like paper cutouts.
By asking this, I risk having Randy refuse to answer me. But
You run that risk all the time, Bill.
what do you think would have been different if Pip and Jane Baker had written Dimensions in Time?
They would have had less silly monsters. They might have actually known what they were writing.
Oh, let me hear the monsters might have been, hey, we have this box of old costumes from Doctor Who. Let's empty it out and see what we can make use of.
I honestly don't know. That's like apples and oranges because that is so horrifically bad. I can't even imagine what it would be like written by somebody else.
Again, I would argue someone who actually knows what they're writing might actually make it a little bit better.
That actually makes me want to see if John Nathan Turner has any other writing credits.
Anywho,
I don't think so.
I think we are closing in on our 2-hour mark, if we have not already.
We have not, but we're getting close.
I'd say about midnight or so.
Twitch would argue with you on that.
Why?
Or
It's already saying over 2 hours ago.
Really?
Yep.
Doesn't feel like it.
See, and Randy was worried this episode would run too short.
Well, then we got on the
we've
topic of
talked enough.
freaking Doctor Who Warner Brothers. That was a new area of conversation. Reggae Lacurtions was definitely new.
And that was just you guys hearing things.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about the paper mache brain and the
Yeah.
We can talk about them in light. Yeah, the brain was there. It was a thing. It didn't quite work.
I feel like
the costuming was by and large better than the average Doctor Who production.
For the Tetraps
in particular.
I
The
feel like
clothing design
somebody-
was bad, but the costume design was good.
Yes.
Even the Lacurtian's face makeup is actually fairly good. Not the stupid hats, but the face makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like somebody involved in the creative process of this was really proud of the fact that they could make someone look halfway decently like Albert Einstein. Because they definitely made a point to draw attention to that costume, I think at least twice.
Yeah, that particular character at least twice, yes.
Albeit, I think he looks better than the Albert Einstein they used in the 11th Doctor short.
Which short was that?
Oh, God. It was the one where he got turned into an ood. Have you missed a short, apparently?
I'm not sure. I remember one where he dropped an ood off in their bathroom for no particular reason. But I don't remember him being turned into one.
No, it was Einstein got turned into an ood.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that either.
I think it's not good as gold. Frau. I'm looking. It was like from last season. No, I mean the season before.
Anywho, we're gonna be lingering on this for a while.
Yeah, I'll mention it to you after the podcast because apparently, I'm looking for it. I'm not finding it. I know it. I know it exists.
We talked about the trap. We talked about the traps. We talked about the Lacurtians. They had a couple of indoor sets.
It's death is the only answer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's came out in October 2011.
Apparently, he was in A Christmas Carol.
And by the way, that particular bit was written by the children of Oakley CE Junior School. Oh. So the writing for it is about as bad as Love and Monsters. I was just talking entirely on their Albert Einstein costuming. I thought that the one in Time and Rani actually looked better.
Indoor sets were pretty good. The Rani's base in particular, while not huge, was at least decently expansive and had a lot going on in there. I also like the fact that the center table in that big computer room, as more and more things kept going on, they got cluttered with more and more stuff that they kept using.
Yeah, that was good.
So there's a nice bit of continuity even with that little table there.
Yeah, most of the set designs were really good, both in the TARDIS and the actual labs and the Pleasure Dome. All those were fairly good, I thought. So
the leisure, yeah.
Yeah, the Leisure Dome, whatever you want to call it.
Pleasure
like
Dome
the Pleasure Dome
implies a whole lot of...
the Pleasure Dome, yeah.
Kind of expect Don Corneo to show up there.
I can't remember what they called it. Okay, the Zone of Leisure, something like that. Whatever.
As long as you don't call it the Leisure Hive.
The Pink Pummeler's Pleasure Palace. I don't know.
The outside was very much a rock quarry, but for being a rock quarry, it wasn't too bad either.
Although it does make you wonder how the Lacurtians survived before the Rani on a planet like that. Did they actually say that she destroyed their ecosystem or something?
I think they kind of hinted at that a little bit.
But if there was any more of it, it got cut in post or cut before production?
Possibly, yes.
Or they didn't have time to really flesh it out in the writing with everything else going on.
Something like that.
But I think they kind of lightly hinted at it.
I could just imagine turning on a TV in the 80s and be like, oh, there's a rock quarry. And Mel screaming, hey, Doctor Who is back.
As if you couldn't hear it from the neighbor's house who were purposely trying to watch Doctor Who. What's that? A bellowing whale that could only come from a banshee?
Now,
it must be Mel.
I want to add a sad note.
More than 2 channels by this point.
By this point, oh yeah. By this point, ITV was going. But no, I'd like to add a sad note, I think, was by the time we got this in the United States, Doctor Who had already been canceled.
Yeah, I think so. It was at least a good couple of years behind yet at the time.
Mm-hmm. Because I think we got this in, like, November of '89. And,
by then, it was practically getting stomped out in the...
So by the time we got BBC. Survival, the last...
By the time we got Survival, it had been probably over by about half a year, almost. At least.
Something like that. By the time we got Survival, it was 91.
Oh, I'm like, I was okay.
So it's been over since, like, 2 years then.
So it wasn't quite the 30th anniversary yet.
Yeah. No, it wasn't quite the 30th anniversary, but I remember it was like I heard that this was the last actual episode of Doctor Who when they put it on for a special in '91. I'm like, what? No Doctor Who? But no, I remember this one. Like I said, they like I mentioned last week on the episode that didn't take, they aired it as part of a pledge drive the first time. So I actually kind of got it in quasi-episode broadcasts because they kept breaking it up for 20-minute pledge breaks. including Sophie Aldred and Sylvester McCoy talking about signing up for Doctor Who. And I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah, I'm saying, again, as a kid, you probably had no idea who Sophie Aldred was at that point.
Nope. So, all right, final thoughts, Matt.
Still, I find this episode is a mixed bag. I can totally understand why some of it was very much a miss, but I can also understand where they're coming from, and that there was still a decent amount of stuff that kept you watching and at least somewhat entertained. And even with some of the stuff that did work, it's obvious now that a lot of it is pretty dated. So it might be a slog for some people, but for others, it's gonna be like retro, awesome. Let's watch.
Again, if you're watching classic Doctor Who for classic Doctor Who, you've got to be in it for retro.
Yep, pretty much.
If you can't stand old black and white, or the old like free CGI special effects, then you probably haven't been watching to get this far.
Although, to be fair, if you're I could see someone watching the 7th Doctor era who can't stand, say, early 70s CSO.
Maybe.
That's essentially what the new digital effects were taking the place of. Yeah. And they were doing about as good of a job. I would have actually preferred the 70s CSO over some of the special effects we saw.
Yeah.
I can't argue with you there.
At least by this point, they knew how to do CSO.
Very true.
Okay.
Any more, Matt?
No, that was it.
Okay. Aaron?
It was a little bit boring for me. I was kind of almost fell asleep. I watched the whole thing, but it didn't have the cheesiness or camp or awfulness of Twin Dilemma to keep me interested. But it's still not as bad as some other episodes that I've seen. So.
Dear, the fact that the worse of the two kept your interest more because it was bad says something about your personality, love. I'm just saying.
I'm sorry, it was just kind of, it wasn't fascinating, but it kept me slightly more interested. Or maybe it could just be the shiny clothing.
Well, there's a reason why Troll 2 and The Room seem to be two of the most popular movies on the internet.
It's actively, making me think about what I'm watching. Here, it was okay, but it was just, kind of blah for me. Except for Kano Mara. She was pretty enjoyable, even as Mel.
She was a real trooper.
In fact, I actually kind of really liked her as Mel, again, because it was so awful. I think she got the voice kind of pretty good.
Kato Mara didn't scream.
She didn't scream. Was she actually was that her voice, or did they dub Mel's voice over the top?
No, I think it was her own voice.
Yeah, I think so.
She got it pretty well high-pitched there. It wasn't exact, but yeah.
Yeah, she was a good impression.
Yeah, she was a very good actor. I mean, she was on Dynasty. The American soap opera.
Although they do mention that the Rani, like the Master, is a master of disguise, so it would make sense
that she should be able to pull her voice.
Character-wise, at least, that she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bill, your thoughts?
Yep. I enjoyed it when the Rani was on screen. I didn't enjoy it when Mel was on screen. They both had about equal amounts of screen time, I think.
Just about.
One thing that I kept meaning to bring up, but I haven't. I don't know if this has happened before, but this is a very good episode at showing that the Doctor is rubbish at spotting which is the real and which is the fake, which is another thing that we would see repeated by David Tennant.
A lot.
I mainly think of it in Day of the Doctor. I can't remember where actually it happened before that.
Odd for a doctor that's coined as the chess master later on.
Again, this was his fledgling episode. He's not quite the chess master yet. He needs a little while to cook.
To settle in, yeah. He's not quite finished.
Yeah, I need about a year to...
The steering's a bit off, too. Anyway. Yeah, my thoughts of it is it's a far better... it's a better production than Twin Dilemma, but it's still not as good as your average Doctor Who episode. It has a lot of flaws. It's obviously 80s by its clothing and just the amount of sheer coloredness in it. And they really could have used that CGI to cook a little longer.
Or just done something slightly different to make it pan out far better in their direction of storytelling. But yeah, it needed more to make it palatable, but I suspect they did the best they could with the allotments that they had. Ratings, Matt. I am still giving this one a 3. It's very middle of the road, and I give it a 3 because I understand a lot of the background problems, and this could have been better. But also, given the background problems, it could have been a lot worse than what it turned out to be.
Bill?
I'm not going to go as high as an average rating with a 3.
I'm definitely not.
What I think you did last week.
You did last week.
I gave Twin Dilemma a 2, and I'm going to definitely say that this is better than that, if only even if only for the Rani. So 2.5.
Aaron?
Same for me, pretty much for the same reason. Kate O'Mara really kind of elevated this above Twin Dilemma. Wasn't quite as bad, but could have been better.
Yeah, I'm going the same way with giving this a 2.5, so Matt's the only one that's, I think, giving it a little leniency.
So our score has actually fallen then by an eighth of a point since last week.
That's because you gave it a 3 before.
No.
You gave it a 3 before.
You gave it a 3.
I gave it a 3?
Yes, you did.
You gave it a 3.
The 2 people that gave Twin Dilemma a 1 gave Time and Rani a 3, and the 2 people that gave Twin Dilemma a 2 gave Time and Rani 2.5.
Yep, it was me and Bill last time, and you and Matt.
Huh.
Yep.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Backstabber.
And Matt feels betrayed.
It's it's looking at it now. I don't feel it's an average episode, so it doesn't deserve that 3.
Believe me, there are some pretty bad things in here, but there's also just as many pretty decent things in here, which is why for me it still just manages to barely cling onto that middle of the road. Which, trust me, is not the greatest nor the worst thing. It's just kind of.
I think it's 2.5 because I've got some stuff that I would rather watch that I've given 3s to.
Given
so
what
you're not
it is,
you're not changing my rating.
You're not changing my rating, so.
Well, there.
So we end up with a total of.
What's the rating? You have a calculator, don't you?
I do now, because what I came to in my head very quickly was not correct. So 2.625.
Whereas before it was a 2.75, so we've lost 0.125.
1.125. Yeah.
We can deal with that. All right, so tune in next week, where we'll either be doing Rose, the first episode of the 9th Doctor, since we've already done the movie twice, or we'll be doing this again, where the rating will continue to deteriorate until it actually gets put on the internet.
Twitch, we're looking at you.
The stabbings will continue until morale improves. Yes,
And
I know
on
it's
that
meetings.
bombshell-
I'm taking the black mage route in that.
I will stab you in the eyes.
And on that bombshell, tune in next week.